Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYNT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. There are now at least 4,300 confirmed coronavirus cases in the United States and more than 80 deaths. As the numbers continue to grow, President Trump is asking nearly every American to stay home from work or school for the next 15 days to slow the spread of the virus. CBS's Natalie Brand has the latest from the White House.
President Trump today acknowledged the coronavirus crisis could last until August and could cause a recession.
It's bad. It's bad. But we're going to be hopefully a best case, not a worst case, and that's what we're working for.
The CDC also rolled out new guidelines for the next 15 days, urging all Americans to stay home from work and school, avoid social gatherings of more than 10 people, and avoid eating and drinking at bars, restaurants, and food courts. On Wall Street, the Dow closed down around 3,000 points. It's the largest one-day point drop in history. Investors are worried about massive layoffs as businesses around the country shut their doors to try to stop the spread. Amy Collado is a waitress who's out of work as of tomorrow.
Maybe I have enough money for rent, but what else am I going to need, or what happens if I get sick?
San Francisco has issued a shelter-in-place order for residents. New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut announced a coordinated social life shutdown. No theaters, restaurants, or bars except for takeout and delivery. School closures are affecting more than 35 million students in at least 35 states. Closed schools in cities including New York and Houston handed out free meals to children now spending their days at home. The White House's coronavirus response coordinator told CBS News about 50,000 tests have been conducted so far. The task force says 1.9 million more tests should be out this week. Human testing for an experimental vaccine began today in Seattle.
I hope it works. I hope there is no crazy side effects.
This experimental vaccine is one of several being tested around the world, but health experts say a vaccine for the general public is still at least a year away. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
The Senate is currently debating a bill passed by the House that would give Americans sick pay, free coronavirus testing, and emergency food. President Trump has endorsed it. There is also late word that Ohio's health chief is ordering the polls closed just hours before the state was to hold its presidential primary. Kentucky's primary election was delayed by more than 1 month. The governor postponed the election to June 23rd after consulting with the Secretary of State. The original date was May 19th. The Kentucky Democratic Party is delaying planned reorganization efforts because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The reorganization typically takes place every 4 years during a presidential election. It was set to begin this Saturday with precinct conventions. This does not currently affect the process to elect delegates to the Democratic National Convention scheduled to be held this summer.
It's been a pretty soggy evening, more just kind of a dreary, gloomy evening out there. Starting to get some breaks in the rain, but still dealing with that rain. You can see that here along Interstate 75, seeing some wet roadways. So take it easy, headed out tonight or early tomorrow. And of course, in those valleys, like here in Hazard, we're definitely dealing with that fog. So some dreary, foggy conditions late tonight into tomorrow. Take it easy out there. Temperatures are a little bit on the cooler side. And as we look at those rain chances, they're very scattered. We'll continue to see more scattered rain chances tonight. It'll start to pick up a little bit as we head into the very early morning hours. So as we head into the next couple of hours, see those rain chances increasing. We'll hang on to scattered rain chances throughout the morning and into about noon tomorrow. We'll get a slight break though as we head into tomorrow afternoon, but it is going to be a pretty rainy night. Temperatures will really start to warm up as we head into Wednesday and even the end of the week. And yes, more rain chances are on the way, but we might see some sunshine by the weekend. I'll have more on that coming up in a little bit.
All right, thank you, Paige. There are now 25 COVID-19 cases in Kentucky. Still no confirmed cases in southeastern Kentucky. Here's a map showing what counties the confirmed cases are in. The most are in Harrison, Jefferson, and Fayette. The other counties with at least one case are Bourbon, Montgomery, Clark, and Nelson. The governor says there are likely more cases out there. Those numbers include Kentucky's first COVID-19 related death this month. The patient was a 66-year-old man from Bourbon County. State officials tell us he did have underlying health conditions as well. The health department there spent the weekend trying to figure out who that man may have been in contact with. He was connected to one case from Harrison County, and he originally went to the hospital because of underlying health issues. The man's employer, CMWA, said he had worked there for 29 years. They said this was a sad day for them. They also said they were working with the health department to make sure his co-workers were safe.
We have worked very closely with his employer and have done contact tracing with individuals that he would have been considered, a close contact that within that 6-foot range for longer than 30 minutes. So we've spent the entire weekend doing all those contact investigations to determine who needs to be put on self-monitoring at home and who had no restrictions.
Right now, they are not releasing the man's name or any other identifying information to give his family time to grieve. This morning, Governor Beshear ordered bars and restaurants closed to dine-in customers by 5 p.m. While you cannot go in and eat in a restaurant, you can still use drive-thrus, curbside, and carry-out. In Jackson, Sean Thatcher is the owner of Thatcher's Downtown and North Fork Grill. He and other owners in town are already discussing how this will impact their business.
They're the same as me. Like they don't know. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do. Like there's some of them that are going to try it for a couple days and see if their deliveries are enough to keep them going. And some of them are in a little different, maybe a different situation than we are. Maybe they can, shut down for a couple weeks.
Thatcher wants everyone to know they are still open, but just order everything to go. Wuhan, China was the center of the coronavirus outbreak several months ago before spreading here to the United States. WYMT's Madison Pergram talked to a Clay County native who now lives near that area.
Nearly 7,500 miles away in Anhui, China, sits 28-year-old Cameron Wagers in quarantine.
You just get in a one room by yourself with very bad internet, and they feed you kind of the basic food here in China, which is basically like rice and vegetables and a little meat every day.
But going back a couple months ago to December, Cameron was living his normal life as an English teacher.
We started to actually hear like rumors about it instead of actually knowing the truth, and it was very scary. And then suddenly everything was just shut down. Everything just closed, and the government was like, stay home. So I was very scared.
Cameron returned to the U.S. in February for a pre-scheduled trip, but returned back to China to be with his fiancée to keep his work permit.
Got here on March 1st, and I was in quarantine in my apartment for like 7 days.
That quarantine led to an additional 10-day quarantine in a hotel in the countryside. This all for precautionary reasons, as he was tested 3 times for the virus, all 3 showing negative results.
You can't take it for granted. Just the ability to have freedom to move around and go outside and not have to worry about, getting sick. That's a real big thing that I think a lot of people take for granted.
As he continues to get his temperature checked 3 times a day, he does have a message to share.
My biggest advice would be don't panic, and of course take the precautions like washing your hands and not touching your face, and avoid large crowds, and everything will get back to normal.
Assuring his fellow Kentuckians this: there is hope and light at what seems to be a dark tunnel. Madison Pergram, WYMT Mountain News.
Wagers is now being quarantined with his fiancée at his apartment for 2 more weeks. A more than 100-year tradition will likely change this year. It appears that the Kentucky Derby will not be the first Saturday in May. Our sister station in Louisville, WAVE, is reporting the 146th running of the Kentucky Derby will be postponed till September 5th. An official announcement is expected to be made tomorrow morning. According to WAVE, this is the first time since 1945 the Run for the Roses will not happen in May. That year, the government issued a ban on horse racing due to World War II. Governor Andy Beshear announced today that all daycares must close by the end of the workday Friday. Daycare facilities have been preparing for this. At the Children's House Montessori in Hazard, they've implemented measures throughout the week to stay clean and limit exposure, but have also been preparing to close. Today, they only had about 50% of their kids present, but say many of the children they do take care of have parents that will not be able to work from home.
60% of the kids that go to my school are all medical personnel. They're nurses, they are therapists, they are people who need to get there every day.
Governor Beshear did say that they are preparing to offer child care to healthcare workers so that those folks can continue to go to work, but the details about that are still not known. Tomorrow, officials in Pike County will break down extra steps they plan to take. We expect to learn what offices will close and which will remain open. Officials say they are continuing with Hillbilly Days planning, which is currently scheduled for mid-April. Again, we're supposed to learn more about that tomorrow. The Perry County Fiscal Court announced on Facebook that it would go to limited services starting tomorrow. WYMT's Dakota Makris talked with the judge executive about what this means if you need assistance at the courthouse.
The Perry County Fiscal Court posted this Facebook post on Monday.
We're doing limited access,
telling community members that they are switching to limited services starting Tuesday.
The courthouse is a public building, and I encourage people to come all the time, but this is something that we've never faced or dealt with.
Perry County Judge Executive Scott Alexander encourages people to call the departments inside the courthouse, giving alternatives such as renewing car tags.
If they can, they need to call ahead. He's doing some ads where they can mail it in now.
Wanting to keep the courthouse staffed.
I'm going to do everything I can so that we maintain a staff here that can answer some of the essentials that the public needs at this time.
Asking that you come to the courthouse if it is a must.
We want you to come here for essential services at this time so that we protect one another.
It is important to know that the courthouse is not shutting down. They are limiting access to keep everyone safe.
We'll do this for as long as needed. We plan on doing it for about a week right now, just to see where we're at with this.
Judge Alexander says public safety is at the top of his mind. In Perry County, Dakota Makris, WYMT Mountain News.
Judge Executive Scott Alexander stresses the courthouse is not closing and they are still available if you need them. We have a full list of department numbers on our website, WYMT.com. Coming up on Mountain News at 11, how businesses in one eastern Kentucky town plan to stay clean and keep their customers healthy.
And soggy conditions continue for the week. We'll break down the forecast next.